In 1780s France, a rigid class system existed composed of three estates: the clergy, the nobles, and the commoners. For the citizens of France, it was extremely difficult to break through the rigid structure and establish oneself in a higher, better estate. The substantial difference between the estates caused resentment among the third estate, who did not possess the great privileges the first two estates were able to unjustly have. Many men with great abilities were limited to the status of the third estate, no matter how successful they were. Wealth, intellect, and hard work did not damage the great wall that separated the commoners and nobles. The only way to destroy the wall would be to rise up in arms against the first two estates. A revolution was born out of the grave mistreatment of the lower class, who desperately wanted the privileges and status some of them rightly deserved.
The state was made up of the different levels of the clergy. They had many privileges, such as not having to pay taxes and holding on to large amounts of land. Also, they exercised enormous influence. The second estate was comprised of nobility. Like the first estate, they also didn't have to pay taxes, and they had access to any important offices, regardless of how fit they were for the position. Also, the nobility of the clergy were subject to different laws and punishments than the third estate. The third estate, also called the bourgeoisie, was comprised of everyone else. They were mostly educated members of the middle class. They couldn't take any offices or positions of importance, not allowing for any upward advancement. They also faced harsher laws and punishments than the other estates.
The list of grievances of the third estate show the severe oppression resulting from the unjust privileges, showing why the people would want to rise up against the first two estates. 1. The heavy burden of paying taxes to maintain the political running of France was only placed upon the third estate. 2. The corvées, a tax paid through labour service rather than money, fell upon the third estate only. 3. The capitanaires, occupiers of land and possession of all the game, were all nobles, who ensured they reaped most of the profits, whilst the peasants on the land would receive little money and food. 4. The penal code allowed for lighter punishments if of noble blood.
And even gross ones have been reported to me in many parts of the kingdom that may shudder at the oppression to which people have been subjected by the undying favours granted to such crooked influence. What must be the state of the poor people paying taxes, from which the clergy and nobility are exempted? The corvées were annually the ruin of hundreds of farmers. More than 300 reduced to beggary. The tyranny exercised in the capitanaires, which extended over 400 leagues of the country, was so great that the courtiers demanded the suppression of them. They speak of the dispensation of justice in manorial courts as compromising every species of despotism. The districts indeterminate, appeals endless, irreconcilable to liberty and prosperity.
The rigid class structure prevented the majority of the people to a political voice. The third estate included people of different wealth and talents: bourgeoisie, merchants, artisans, farmers, and beggars. The only thing some of them had in common was that they were unable to advance into another estate. By 1789, the ambitious, talented men belonging to the higher class within the third estate realized how vital they were in sustaining France's success as a powerful country, and now believed it was time to be something more in the political order. The privileged orders were now seen as a malignant tumour in the body politic. It was time for justice and equality. Why should a man who possesses great political knowledge be passed over for an ignorant noble?
Qu'est-ce que c'est la troisième classe sociale? 2. It suffices to have made the point that the so-called usefulness of a privileged order to the public service is fallacy, that, without help from this order, all the arduous tasks in the service are performed by the third estate. Qu'est-ce que ça a été depuis maintenant dans l'ordre politique? Rien. The nation as a whole cannot be free, nor can any of its separate orders, unless the third estate is free. Qu'est-ce que ça veut être? Quelque chose. It wants to have genuine representatives in the State General, and a number of representatives equal to that of the other two orders taken together. The third estate, therefore, asks for the votes to be counted by heads and not by orders. The third estate's modest aim is to possess an equal influence in the States General to that of the privileged orders.
The combination of noble privileges and the prevention of the third estate to have a political voice set off a chain of events that would eventually break out into the revolution. Higher and lower classes within the third estate all started to take direct action against the first two estates and the absolute monarchy. The higher class. They began to make political moves to establish a voice in the way France was being run. The Estates General in 1789 allowed the representatives of the third estate to vote. The Cahiers de doléances, a list of grievances from all the estates to the king, included the third estate, which spoke of abolishing taxes, noble privileges, hunting laws, and supported having equal status and justice for all citizens. However, the two-thirds majority meant the clergy and nobles dictated what laws would be passed. Neglection of the third estate's wishes pushed them to further strike at the political order by meeting together to make the tennis court oath on June 3, 1789. They insisted on a national assembly and swore they would not separate until a constitution had been established, despite the King's declaration that their meeting was illegal. Protests and dissent spread across the country. The people were ready to fight for their rights. The storming of the Bastille was a significant moment and showed the widespread support of a revolution to take down the unjust class system. Thousands of citizens headed to the Bastille, a symbol of despotism, to take the ammunition and gunpowder stored there. Initially peaceful negotiations turned violent when the governor of the Bastille opened fire on the protesters. The French guards changed sides and helped the citizens capture the Bastille and kill the governor. It was an open attack against the king and the injustice of the treatment of the Third Estate as a whole.
The Bastille have made some resistance, but was taken yesterday evening. The governor and sub-governor had their heads cut off, which were carried in triumph around the city. The consternation that has prevailed in Paris for the last 2 days is beyond all power of description. Few people have gone out of their doors, and all public amusement for the first time have been stopped.
After the demolition of the Bastille, the tricolour flags and cockades made their first appearance in the history of France. A revolution was beginning. The lower classes of the Third Estate joined in on attacking the first two estates. A long series of bread crises and the event known as the Great Fear, a rumour that the aristocrats had organised an army to kill the people, influenced the peasants in the countryside to take up arms. The revolt caused mass panic among the aristocrats and led the assembly to propose that at least some feudal and other privileges should be ended. All members of the Third Estate contributed to the forming of a revolution. They were tired of the endless severe oppression from the ruling classes of France. One status was given to them at birth, and the only way to change it was to rise up against the first two classes and forcefully take away the unjustly laws.
Ça ira, l'heure qu'on se joue sans cesse répète. Ça ira, ça ira, ça ira, malgré les mutins tout réussira. Nos ennemis confus en restent là, et nous allons chanter Alléluia. Ça ira, ça ira, ça ira.